Sunset. It is said that the 5th day of the 5th lunar month is the Dragon Boat Festival. On this day, people in Jiangsu and Zhejiang have the custom of fighting dragon boats and having fun on the rivers. Cut the thick tree section in two, then hollow out the inside and shape it into the shape of a dragon, painted with dragon scales all over the body, painted gold and sparkling. A carved roof ridge was set up on the dragon boat and supported by red railings. The tail of the dragon boat is tilted upward, as high as 10 feet. Ropes made of cloth strips are also led from the carved dragon's spine and tied to the two ends of the board, allowing children to perform various funny actions on the hanging board. Somersaulting and dancing on the dragon boat. Naturally, there is rolling river water under the dragon boat. The game is full of dangers, and it is easy to fall into the water if you are not careful. This kind of performance often makes people tremble with fear. Therefore, there are people who specialize in training children to perform this kind of performance. These people often lure the children's parents with large sums of money and tell them that they will be educated and trained after they go there. Once the children become famous, they will become a money tree. But if you accidentally slip and fall into the river and die, you will not regret it. In the Suzhou area, young and beautiful women are often carried on the dragon boats, which is slightly different from other places. At that time, there was a child named Zhang in Zhenjiang, named Aduan. When he was only 7 years old, he was light and agile, and his performance on the boat was unmatched by anyone. Therefore, his reputation continued to increase until he at the age of 16. People still invited him to fight dragon boats. However, in that year, while performing dragon boat fighting in Jinshan, Zhenjiang, Aduan accidentally slipped and fell into the river and died. Aduan's mother had only one son, so she couldn't help but cry and be heartbroken every day. Besides, Aduan, who fell into the river, did not realize that he was dead. He just felt that two people led him to a place different from the water. He looked around and saw water and waves standing all around, like a wall of water. After a while he came to a palace and saw a man wearing armor sitting in the hall. The two people who brought him here said, "That man is the Prince of Longwo. Let him kneel down and worship." The prince said to him kindly, "With your skills, go to the wicker department." So someone led him to a place, which was a large courtyard house. Aduan walked into the east corridor, and many young men came out to greet him. These young men were probably around 13 or 14 years old. At this time, an old woman came over, and everyone called her Grandma Ji. After Grandma Ji sat down, she asked everyone to perform the skills of dragon boat play, and then taught them Qiantang fighting dance and Dongting zeffing music. Only the beating of drums and gongs were heard, and the noise could be heard in many courtyards of the palace. Later, Grandma Zi was afraid that Aduan would not be able to dance skillfully immediately, so she took the trouble to tune him personally. Who knew that Aduan would already understand it skillfully as soon as he passed by? Grandma couldn't help but said with joy, "Getting this child is better than Wangsha's child." The next day, the Prince of Longwo gathered all the performance departments together for a report performance. The first person to come on stage was the Yaksha division. The people who came out all had ghost-like faces and were dressed in fish skin-like clothes. The diameter of the gong they were beating was more than 4 feet long, and a large drum required for people. Only then can we hug each other. For a moment the sound was as loud as thunder, and other sounds could not be heard again. I saw that after the ghost dance started, a huge wave surged out, like a stream across the sky. And then like a little starlight, it fell to the ground without a shadow. The second person to enter the scene was the Rying department, and all those who came in were 28 beauties Shuli, and they danced to the soft sound of Sheng music. Suddenly, people felt the breeze blowing. The sound of water waves also became silent, and the surrounding water condensed into a crystal world, as if it were transparent up and down. After the dance, they all retreated to the stage near the west. Next down is the Swallow department, all underage girls. There was a girl inside, who was under 14 or 15 years old. She fluttered her long sleeves and fluttered her long hair, dancing gracefully like a goddess scattering flowers. Many colorful flowers appeared around her body. and those flowers danced as they danced. The rising wind fell continuously, and soon it filled the courtyard. After the dance, the girl, along with the people from the Yanzi department, also went to stand on the west side of the stage. Aduan looked sideways and fell in love with this girl. He couldn't help but ask people in the same department, and someone told him that she was Wangxia. After a while, the wicker department was called on, and the Prince of Longwo wanted to give Aduan a try. Achuan dances forward. His mood and anger change with the singing voice, and he is very controlled when he raises his head and lowers his head. The prince was very satisfied, praised his understanding, and rewarded him with a colorful pattern jumpsuit with a gold wire frame in the shape of fish whiskers and a big night pearl embedded in the frame. After Achuan thanked the prince, he returned to the audience in the west and walked into his team. Aduan was watching the sunset from a distance in the crowd, and at this time, the sunset was also watching him from a distance. After a while, Aduan even walked out of the team and approached the sunset. At this time, the sunset girl also gradually left the team and walked towards him. The distance between the two of them was only a few steps. Because of strict discipline, neither of them dared to mess up the team. They could only look at each other fascinated. The feeling of falling in love at first sight was really wonderful. Next came the Butterfly Club, boys and girls dancing in pairs, all of the same height, and wearing yellow and white clothes. After all the performances were completed, they filed out. Aduan's Wickler section followed Miss Wangxia's Swallow section and walked out. Aduan hurried forward and rushed to the head of the team, while Axia also slowly fell behind and became a member of the Swallow section. Tail, the two walked in tandem. Axia turned around and saw Aduan deliberately throwing a coral hairpin on the ground. Aduan quickly picked it up and put it in his sleeve. After returning home, Aduan couldn't sleep without thinking about tea and rice. When Grandma Ji found out, she thought he was sick, so she came to visit him and brought him a lot of delicious food. She visited him 3 or 4 times a day, caressing his hands and expressing her sincere condolences, but Aduan's illness did not improve. Grandma was very worried, but there was nothing she could do. She said anxiously, "King Wujiang's birthday is approaching. What should you do if you continue like this?" That evening, a boy came in. He sat beside Aduan's bed and said, "I am from the Nymphoids department. Is your illness caused by the sunset?" Aduan asked in shock, "How did you know?" Then the boy smiled and replied, "Axia is wearing the same clothes as you over there." Hearing this, Aduan sat up sadly and asked the boy if he had any solution. The boy asked him, "Can you still walk?" Aduan said, "You can barely walk 2 steps." The boy helped him out of the door, then opened a door to the south, turned to the west, and opened another double door. I saw a large lotus pond inside, about dozens of acres. Those lotus flowers all grow on the flat ground. The leaves are as big as mats, the flowers are as big as lids, and the fallen petals are piled up to a foot high round the flower stalks. The boy said to Aduan, "Just sit here for a while." After saying that, he left. Soon after, I saw a beautiful woman parting the lotus leaves and coming to Aduan. This person was Wangxia. The two of them were both very surprised when they met. So they talked to each other about the pain of missing each other, and each also told the other about some life experiences. Later, they used some stones to press the lotus leaves on the 4 sides to make the leaves stand upright. In this way, the lotus leaves became a shield to blind people. They also spread the lotus leaves evenly on the ground as a blanket. Then it was inevitable to enter the realm of Shaowushan's big clouds and rain. After that, the two made a covenant with each other to meet here at dusk every day and never leave. After Achuan and Wangxia returned, their illnesses were cured without treatment. From then on, the two met in the lotus pond every day. A few days later, both Aduan and Wangxia followed the Prince of Longwo to celebrate the birthday of King Wu. After the birthday celebrations, all the people from the tribes went home, leaving only Wangxia and Qiuxiang from the Rying tribe to teach dance in the palace of King Wu. A few months passed, and there was no news from Achuan at sunset. For this reason, Aduan feels lost every day. Since only Lao Ji often visited Wu Palace, Duan lied to Lao Ji that he was Wang Xi's cousin and asked Lao Lao to take him there to meet his cousin Wang Xia. Several days had passed since we arrived at Wu Palace. Due to the tight security of the palace, Wang Xia still could not come out to meet Duan, so Duan had to return in dismay. Just as several months passed in the days of missing the sunset, Achuan was almost heartbroken. One day, Grandma Z came. She touched Achuan's hand and said, "I threw myself into the river at sunset and died." Duan was shocked when he heard this and couldn't help but burst into tears. He threw away his hat, tore his clothes, and hid the night pearl given by the prince and the coral hairpin left by the sunset in his sleeves, intending to die together with the sunset. But the river water on all sides was like a stone wall. Duan couldn't break through the wall of water even if he hit it with his head. He wanted to go back, but he was afraid that someone would ask him about the damage to his hat and clothes. If the truth was exposed, he would be severely punished. Punishment. Duan was at his wit's end and was sweating profusely. Even the soles of his feet were wet. Suddenly he saw a big tree into the water wall. Duan was overjoyed and hurriedly climbed up, climbing to the top of the tree like a monkey. He closed his eyes and jumped hard, but luckily he didn't touch the water. When he opened his eyes again, he found that he was floating on the water. It was like a second world between the underground and the human world without realizing it. Duan swam ashore for a while and sat down to rest by the river. Suddenly he thought of his old mother, so he took a boat back home. When I arrived at my hometown, I saw my house from a distance, as if it was a lifetime ago. He stumbled to the door of his house and suddenly heard a woman's voice from the window, "Your son is here." The sound was very much like sunset. After a while, a woman came out supporting his mother. Sure enough, it was sunset. At this time, the two of them were more happy than sad, but Ajuan's old mother didn't believe what happened suddenly. She was afraid, happy, surprised, and suspicious. And all kinds of things came out. It turned out that when Wang Xia was teaching dance at Wuwang Palace, one day she suddenly felt a vibration in her stomach. She knew that there was Ajuan's dragon ball in her belly, and she couldn't help but panic. Because of the strict laws of the Dragon Palace, it must be forbidden. Once she gives birth, she will be whipped, and she will not be able to see Duan for a while, and will be helpless. Wang Ji thought about it. It had no choice but to think of death. So Wang Xia threw herself into Wujiang when no one was prepared, but who knew that the Lord of Hell checked her life and death record, and found that her life was still alive and she would continue to suffer. So he did not give Wang Xia the bowl of resurrection soup and sent her back to the ghost world. Therefore, after Wang Xia jumped into the water, she could not sink. Instead, her body was involuntarily lifted up by the river water and swayed with the water. At this time, a passenger ship happened to be passing by and rescued Wang Xia. The people on the boat asked Wang Xia, "What is your name? Where do you live?" Wang Xia was afraid that people would send her to a brothel, so like those who had just escaped death. She thought for a while, said, "The little girl's husband's surname is Zhang and his family is in Zhenjiang." So the kind person on the passenger ship paid for it, rented a small boat, and asked the boatman to send the sunset back to his hometown of Zhenjiang. When she first saw Wang Xia and listened to what she said, the Zhang family's mother suspected that there was something wrong with the girl's brain and that what she said was nonsense. But Wang Xia insisted that all this was true and repeatedly met her in Duan. The experience of meeting and falling in love was told to Mother Zhang in detail, and Mother Zhang became less suspicious. Mother Zhang fell in love with Wang Xia when she saw her beautiful and dignified appearance, graceful figure and graceful character. But Jiang's mother still believed that Wang Xia was too young and would not be a widow for her son for long. When Sunset walked into the house, she saw that the Zhang family was empty and impoverished, so she took off all her precious accessories, sold them on the street for tens of thousands of yuan, and gave all the money to Jiang's mother. From this incident, Jiang's mother felt that Wang Xia had made up her mind to become a member of the Zhang family, and she fell in love with Miss Wang Xia even more. However, Mother Zhang also thought that her son had fallen into the river and died. This fact was also known to all the villagers. If Wang Xia gave birth, people would accuse her of lying about the death of her son, So Mother Zhang asked, "How will you answer people's questions when the sunset comes?" But Wang Xie said, "As long as Mom knows that she has a real grandson, there is no need to let everyone know." After listening to Wang Xie's persuasion, Jiang's mother felt relieved. Now, Duan is back home again. Of course, Wang Xie and Mama Zhang are very happy and cry with joy. Mother Zhang couldn't help but wonder whether Duan was really dead. So he secretly asked someone to dig up his son's coffin, and found that there were indeed bones inside. So Mother Zhang asked Duan, how could all this happen? After Duan learned the whole story, he suddenly realized the truth. He was actually a ghost. In this way, Duan was afraid that Wang Xie would hate him and leave him, so he asked his mother to keep the matter secret for him. Of course, Jiang's mother agreed. Later, Mother Zhang told the villagers that her son did not die after falling into the river that day, but was rescued. He is now home safely, and there is only an unknown corpse in that grave. Even so, Mother Zhang knew very well that I was afraid that the sunset would not be able to give birth to a son for the Zhang family. Not long after, Wang Xie gave birth to a baby boy for the Zhang family. He held it up to a bright place and took a closer look. There was nothing unusual about the child, so the Zhang family became happy. After some time passed, Wang Xie was still aware of the fact that Duan was a ghost rather than a human being. Wang Xie asked Duan, "Why didn't you tell me earlier? As long as a person wears ghost clothes, his soul will solidify in 7749 days. It will be like drinking mangpo soup and becoming a stranger." People, however, if you can get the dragon horn glue that is only available in the palace, you can rejoin the bones of the dead, grow muscles, and warm the skin. If you had known about it, you would have bought that elixir. So, Duan took the night pearl awarded to him by the prince and sold it on the market. He happened to find a wealthy businessman who recognized the goods and was willing to invest millions to buy it. The Zhang family received this windfall and became extremely wealthy overnight. On this day, it was Mother Jiang's birthday, and the young couple couldn't help but dance and pour wine to wish her mother a long and healthy life. Unexpectedly, the sound of singing and dancing reached the ears of the rich and powerful King Hui next door. When King Hui saw the sunset, she looked like a fairy, so he wanted to take her as his concubine by force. Duan felt frightened and said to King Hui, "Both of us, husband and wife, are ghosts." He also used the ghost-free method to verify it to King Hui, and King Hui believed it to be true. But King Hui did not give up, and still wanted to capture Wang Xie into the palace and let her teach the young ladies and maids dancing skills in another palace. Wang Xie had no choice but to destroy her appearance with turtle urine before going out to see King Hui. Wang Xie taught in Prince Hui's palace for 3 months, but was finally kicked out by Prince Hui because her dancing skills could no longer be fully utilized.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.